The Coffee and Cigar Show. Here we are. It is Thursday, May 30th. What's going on? So I'm trying something a little bit different today that I think might give us better image quality. Like as you notice right here, there's no duck from StreamYard, which means that I'm not running this live stream through StreamYard like I normally do. I'm actually running it through YouTube. And the reason we never did YouTube before is because the channel wasn't eligible for live streaming with YouTube. But somehow I think it is now, because I think there's enough not subscribers, but there's enough watch time, or something's changed, and I'm not really sure what it is. And so now I have started. We're going to try and see how it looks. So how does it look? Does it look better? Does it sound better? Is there anything better now? The problem with this approach, like we do in the morning show on the Ono Coffee channel, is that since I'm just using YouTube's streaming through the phone, it doesn't really allow me to do overlays. So all the overlays at the bottom that you normally see and all the times when your comments pop up on the screen, I'm not going to be able to do that on this live stream. It'll be just like, it'll be just like the morning live stream where I'm unable to do that. So hopefully that'll be all right. Let me know what you think as we go along. I am here back at the homestead where I am starting a fire. I'm actually using one of my boxes to kind of, give it some air. So I think we're going to have a successful fire today. And we've got a little bit more things to do than we normally do on the show. So we've got the Inner Circle from Cavalier Geneve Cigars that is made in Danli, Honduras. And then we've got we've also got some coffee to play with. And instead of just brewing coffee, we're actually going to roast some coffee today. We're going to use this little roaster that I have available to me here. And we're going to get to that. But the roasting part usually takes a bit longer. George is with us. What's going on, George? Good to see you, man. Oh, fanning is not conducive to the live stream. All right, I think we're good with the fanning. I don't think we have to fan anymore. Mom, good to see you as well. All right, so what we're going to do is we've got today's cigar, like I said, is the Cavalier Geneve. And it's I've got it in the humidor, the official humidor here. Yeah, it looks like we're good. Looks like the lighting has done well. So I'm going to put that back there. And here it is, the Inner Circle by Cavalier is the cigar of the day. And it looks veiny, right? Look at that. It looks kind of veiny, but it actually feels very silky smooth. It actually has, strangely enough, it has more of a manure fragrance to it. And when I usually use the term manure, it's usually kind of a sweet manure that's kind of complimentary. This is not so sweet. This is like manure, like you would not necessarily be pleased with. But the color is not bad, and the feel of the wrapper is nice. It's just that smell is kind of odd. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go right into the cigar because we don't want to waste time. Because this is a Toro shape, and it may take us the good portion of the show to do it, so we're going to cut the cap. George says, a Honduras product often conjures the hay and horse. Well, we certainly are seeing that in this one. Now, I have had the Geneva, the Cavalier Geneve cigar about 2 years ago when I went to Cleveland. I was able to pick up one of the ones that have the gold triangle, the gold leaf triangle on it. That's actually on the wrapper, and you smoke that with the cigar. I had one of those. I don't recall what it was like offhand. If you go look at it, if you go and look at our listings, you can see where it ranked in 2022. It was. I remember. I don't have a negative remembrance of it, so it was probably fairly decent. Oh, by the way, speaking of good cigars, last week we did the the Eladio Diaz 70th anniversary, and I was doing the, I finally was able to score it up right after the show. 89.5. It is the highest rated cigar for this year, so it's definitely way up there on the food chain at the top of this year. And what I really need to do is like maybe take all of the cigars and put them in a vertical ranking. Good evening, all my father, Le Bijou 100 años. Whoa, that's very nice, very nice. I hope you enjoyed that, George. I hope you enjoyed that. And then looking back at your scores, they're only slightly above average, as I recall. I think at the top of the list. Now, I don't recall what I have written down, and I don't recall what the other scores were. But I think there were a couple of close ones, but I think we've had some very nice quality cigars this year. Mirafels. Well, maybe I didn't record the Mirafels on that one, but we've had some nice cigars. So I don't think that. I think that it did very well. It did very, very well. All right, so cold draw, very easy, very easy. Strangely enough, as on the cold draw, there is this kind of red hots, that cinnamony candy essence that's cascading across my tongue as I'm drawing on the cold draw. Oh, look at this, man. This fire is animal. Just fit oh, the 100 Le Bijou. Look at this thing. We are rocking today. We're rocking the fire today. Unlike other nights where we struggled to get it going, I'm working backwards from you, so my smoke is a La Aurora dating back 3 years, sipping on some Elijah Craig barrel proof, which I did. Very nice, very nice, very nice. All right, so I got my jacket on because it's in the 60s now. It was in the 60s this morning during the other live stream, and now we're back in the 60s again. It got a little bit warmer. Had to go out, did some things at the new shop, and then I went to my niece's. My niece was graduating for, I guess it's called a promotion, from middle school to high school. So she graduated 8th grade. So I went to her graduation ceremony this afternoon. Very nice. She's doing so well, so fast they grow up. My gosh, I know those of you guys have kids that are older, you've been through all this. You're like, oh my gosh, man, how is this possible? 14, how'd that go by so fast? All right, so let's get to the lighting. We're gonna take our lightsaber. And I just realized this week that there's a ring here, right, that actually adjusts the flame. I didn't really realize that. I saw someone doing it online. I was like, that's what that's for? All right, cool. I will do it. So now, successful fire. We're very happy today. How are you there, George Juan? All right, here we go. Here we go. We're lighting it. We're lighting it. I got on the full blast setting. I would be a terrible Jedi because all I want to do is run it at full blast. I don't want to do nuance. I would probably be better as a Sith Lord serving the Empire. There's a hint of that cinnamony candy. All right. We're going to get into that. Now, let's get to our coffee. The coffee is going to take a little while to get it together. So today's coffee is this coffee. If you were shit, what did your life say? Well, here's the thing. Finally, we shall reveal ourselves to the Jedi. So today's coffee is one from Nicaragua, next door to Honduras. This is from a place called Matagalpa, a town called Matagalpa. For one of my good friends, Enrique Ferrufino, who's also a cigar enthusiast. He actually has three coffee shop locations in addition to the farms in the Esteli, Matagalpa, Jinotega area. And he actually sells cigars from the Finca family from Ahoy de Nicaragua at his at his locations. And this is his coffee. This is a natural process Panaeima. And Panaeima is a relatively new varietal or hybrid of coffee that was developed by the ICAFE, the Instituto Hondureño Instituto Hondureño de Cafés, which is the national coffee agency for Honduras. And they do a lot of development for stuff. And so this is supposed to be more disease resistant, rust resistant, better fruitful production, like quantity of production. And it's been making some waves these last couple of years as far as quality and cup quality and flavor and cup quality and all that. So, you know, my friend called me up and said, hey, we got some coffee at our warehouse in Texas. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, send me a sample. So this is a natural process coffee. And natural process means that basically when the coffee cherries have reached the ripeness, either red and crimson cherries. George says, hybrid breeding developed in Honduras, but grown in Nicaragua. Yes, exactly. So one of the things about ICAFE, when they developed this, they were not proprietary about it. They were like, everybody can use it. Here's our beans. Take them, spread them around around Latin America, and see what you can do. So they were very open about that. It's not like in some cases where people had to go steal them and smuggle them, like I was smuggling beans across the border once. Not really in any quantity, but you know, it sounds good for storytelling. But so hopefully a nice cigar. I mean, hopefully a nice coffee. So we're gonna make some coffee. But as you notice, it's green, so it's totally raw. We're gonna roast it up for you today. I've got the Hearthware precision roaster. This is actually a nice little tabletop air popper type roaster that is on loan to me from Brian. He lent this to me, I don't know, 8 years ago. But we're gonna put it to action. And so here's the thing. It's a very simple roaster for the home. It's pretty outdated now, meaning that it's no longer in production, but it still works pretty darn well. So it's a very simple operation. 2 buttons. There's the roast button and the cool button. And then there's this dial that you kind of dial in the roast. Now, in previous generations of this roaster, this was actually a timer. But in this one, there is a sensor inside the roaster that, you know, it's not the latest tech, that's for sure. Like the Cafe Logic and all that are all the modern ones. But I don't know if I want to buy any of those things. But this one has this fuzzy logic or whatever algorithm built into it, so that there's a temperature probe inside the heating element that is measuring the heat flow and resistance of the temperature by the coffee, and it's developing a particular curve. So you're going to hear it, you know, go slow. Like the ideal thing back in the early 2000s was a slow start, low temperature, gentle temperature, and then slowly ramping to higher temperature application to the coffee, right? So that was supposed to give you a really nice cup, and it's still a solid way of approaching roasting of the coffee. And this does that automatically. Now, what the dial does, it actually, and Tony's having the El Rey del Mundo by AJ Fernandez with a Diet Cherry Pepsi. I'm not surprised, but very good. So what this does, it has the degree of roasting. So I tried it at 1, it really wouldn't start up. I tried it at 3, it was way too light. So we're gonna do like a 4, and I think that's gonna give us a really nice 5. At 5, I actually cut it off on the morning show early, because what you can do is you can hit the cool button and it will shut off the heat and just start the cooling. So we're going to show you that. It's a fairly simple way to roast. Now, maximum capacity on this roaster is 85 grams or 3 ounces or half a cup by volume. However, when we used that this morning, it was just too much. We weren't getting enough rotation through the hot air. So what this is, it's a hot air type roaster that's blowing air from the bottom. And there's this little tower thing, right? What's up, Rusty? There's a little tower thing that deflects the the air pushes the coffee up, it deflects off that and gives like a fountain. It's supposed to do a fountain effect to the coffee as it heats and cascades down. But at 85 grams, it's just too much. We're not getting enough rotation of the coffee. We're getting uneven roasting. We're getting some coffee beans that are just not really roasted very well or very much at all because they're just not getting through that cycle, right? They're not getting hit by the heat. And so that's what we're doing. We're going to do that. So the first few puffs, man, solid. Rusty's having the Stolen Throne, Crook of the Crown Robusto, and a hefty pour of the Buffalo Trace. Excellent. I do like that Stolen Thrones, man. That Crook of the Crown. No, it's not Crook of the. What's the other one? The black raven, the crow on it. I do like that one, the red banded one, because I think Crook of the Crown. Oh no, that is the Crook of the Crown. It's the other one. That's the silver label. I like the Crook of the Crown the most of that line. All right, so we just need to weigh out some of the coffee. We've got a trusty scale. Turned on. $50 grams. We're doing 50 grams. Just a little bit more. All right, 50 grams. 50. I'm going to put that in here. Uh-oh. I'm over to the shaft selector. Now there is some chaff left over from this morning's roast. Let me just clear that out. Okay, then we put the lid back on. I gotta take that off of there and make sure it doesn't get burned. Now we're gonna make sure that the coffee is like level. And then really, it's just about starting. Set to 4. Here we go. Now the air is coming from the bottom, pushing up, and you can see the cascading effect, or the effect of the, let's bring this down a little bit more. So I think we started about 1820. And you can see the coffee is moving around. It's a little bit heavy on this side. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's slightly uneven. Watching this makes me crave Jiffy Pop. It definitely is the same principles as the air popcorn poppers. I gotta say, we're starting off, man, this is actually really nice. Mild, mellow, lightly sweet, very enjoyable. Yes, can we make popcorn? I believe we can make popcorn in this, bud. And the nice thing is that it's gonna modulate the heat to the popcorn to give it the best quality of popping. So as you can see, we're about a minute or so into the roast. We're starting to get the turn of color. You can see it's getting a little bit more, what do you call this, yellow. This is actually my favorite phase of the roast as far as an aromatic thing. When it's yellow, I like the way it smells. It's got this hay kind of smell to it. But we're gonna go, so what's happening now is as the heat is being applied to the beans are absorbing the heat, right? And they're also drying out. So coffee is somewhere between 10 to 11% humidity, moisture content, and we're driving that down through the roasting process to about 2 to 3% at the very end. And so this whole phase, the coffee is absorbing the heat and expending the moisture. George is saying, how cool would it be if you could come on. If you could buy a preset pan of beans, like that would be kind of a good idea. Huh, might have to make that. So it's now absorbing, and you can smell the aroma. It's kind of changing. Now you can see it's starting to brown a little bit. This is where the Maillard reaction starts, where sugars are being converted and starting to, I guess, burn and give you that coloration. Now, we can go pretty far into coloration until it becomes black, like Starbucks and some other places, but we're not going to go that far. We want to bring it to a nice cinnamon, a little bit more darker than cinnamon kind of color. So what we're waiting for is the first crack where the beans start to pop. And what's happening now is that it's, like I said, the coffee right now is absorbing the heat and expelling moisture, and it's endothermic, so it's absorbing the heat. There's a point, like with popcorn, where it'll crack and become exothermic and start to expel the heat. So the first crack is what we'll be reaching soon, and then that'll give us a point where it's relatively lightly roasted. That we're starting to hear the popping now. Hear it. Now there's only 50 grams here, so we're not going to get a lot of popping. But it is popping. And you can see the color change. Now we could go further. We can go a little bit further if we want. There's going to be one more time. So after it pops, it becomes endothermic again, starts to absorb heat again, and then we'll reach a point where it does a second pop, a second crack, where then you're kind of in that city roast, full city roast area. I think we're kind of getting close to that now. There we go. So the coffee is now, it's reached a point, and now it is starting to cool because it has turned on the fan and has switched to the green light that you can see, and now it's just in the cooling phase. Oh, I think I like this number 4 setting. We did like 2 or 3 roasts this morning. 3 roasts this morning. So I think we found a happy spot here for our roast profile. So 23 minutes, we started at 18 something, 18:20. So about 5 minutes. Now in the world of coffee roasting, 5 minutes is pretty fast. Like in many respects, I tend to think it's too fast. I would want to have this kind of roast done in about 10 and a half, 11 and a half minutes. But, small quantity, and it's a home roaster, and, there's not as much controllability with the heat on this machine as there would be with more a professional roaster. So what it's doing now is it's cooling the coffee down. It's still fairly hot. And we want to cool down the coffee within 4 minutes to a temperature where you can actually hold it in your hand. It is not there yet. I don't know, like in this roaster, it may roast faster, but it doesn't cool faster. We're just adding a little smoke character to the coffee. Ooh, this is actually really enjoyable. I'm really liking it. Like, it's not very heavy, kind of medium, strength medium, but a really nice, kind of delicious flavor to it. Maybe like a brown bread, some notes of that. Still hints of cinnamon spice. I don't think I remember liking the original Geneva as much as I like this one, at least at this point. Definitely cooling down. Actually, yeah, I'm really liking this. Almost there. But as you can see here, the way that it cascades out, it really is cascading well. This is ideal. So 50 grams is really probably the most you want to roast in this thing, which is fine if you're just roasting a little bit, but if you need to roast a lot, like pound-wise, I mean, this is 50 grams. To make a pound, you'd have to do this 10 times. Which is a lot of time. All right. Tony says, if you're that impressed, it must be because it's much better than the others. I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't really recall offhand like how that other cigar was, but I don't think I had quite this reaction to it. Like, this is a cigar, at the way it's performing right now, if it was to continue, I wouldn't mind having this more. Okay, so we're done. Now, ouch, still kind of warm. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, there it is. So the coffee looks pretty good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to brew it. And to do that, we're going to use our... Tony says he was not impressed with the whole series. Oh, I'm finding this to be quite enjoyable. So what we're going to do now is we're going to brew it up. So we roasted, we put in 50 grams. Let's see how much is left. 43 grams is left. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually use, we're going to use the about 24, we're going to use about half of this. Or just over half, 24 grams. George is asking for aromas. Let's see. Actually, a little bit nutty. Let's see what happens when we grind it. It's supposed, naturals, we theoretically will say that it's supposed to have more, fruit tones because of the processing method. I don't know what we're going to get, but and like I said during the morning live streams, You're gonna see me do something that I really don't normally do, that I don't like to do, and that's grind by hand. So I'm gonna put the coffee in this. This is the Porlex grinder. It's a Japanese grinder. Oh, come on, man, what is going on here? All morning long, I can do this. Can't do it today. So there we are. The Porlex, stainless steel, ceramic conical burrs. Very nice grinder for what it is. It's very compact, good for travel, even though I don't travel with it. Because I don't want to be doing this. Like, I don't like doing this. I'm only doing this because you guys are special. And Matagalpa is very well known for their fruit and produce. So fruity aromas in the beans. All right. That it is. In Matagalpa, or in Nicaragua in general, there's a grocery store called La Colonia. And I usually go to the one in Matagalpa. And I remember that one time I was there, they had just released the, what was it called? The Flor de Caña 125, the really expensive one. And I remember I looked at the price when I arrived in Nicaragua at the duty free. And then I compared it to the price at La Colonia, and it was like $30 less. Oh, thanks. The king of hand grinding. Yeah, the Porlex works. I see these cats, they have these different techniques, and I don't really have a technique. My technique with hand grinding is not to do it. And I think I'm starting to sweat. And getting winded. This is why I stopped smoking that cigar, because, man, this is a lot of work. Switch hands. I'm ambidextrous when it comes to this. I think we're getting close. We're getting close. Oh my gosh, this is just ridiculous. I don't ever. Oh, I missed a comment. Sorry. One of the things about using this, it goes away kind of fast. Back to the Flor de Caña. Oh, tell me, I did buy one, and then we drank it all the time there. And Tony says, reminds me of Artscape. When the power went out, we had to. Yeah, that was some funny times. All right, so I did get that bottle because I was like, oh, you know what, man? Gotta have the bottle. You should sign up for the Comandante Trap. No, I will not do any of that foolishness. Okay, so now we are going to get our water. Gotta boil the water. Fellas use the lightsaber, huh? All right, now that that's running, so we're gonna let this boil, and then we're gonna brew. So what we got for brewing today, I've brought out the Abbott Clever Total Immersion Brewing. Just gonna put the coffee in here. Conical burrs. We'll put it there. Huh? Now, honestly, the grind setting on this is probably a little bit too fine for this style of brewing immersion. I'd probably want to make it coarser, but I'm not going to change the adjustment because really, whenever I use it, it's really for pour-over brewing, and that's really what it's set for. But to change your brews, you just kind of change your thing. What's up, Brian? You just kind of loosen this up and then twist that out. So it's a fairly simple grinder to adjust. And then on the top side, you can see the tops of the conical burrs. You can see and they're all ceramic. Really nice. I like it. I like it as far as grinders. I've had it for a while, and I don't really know if we need to have it. Oh, there we go. Now that it's been ground, as I was just standing there, I had a waft of air that blew some of that fruity notes. Maybe like a blueberry-ish. This is actually a better roast. The ones that we tasted this morning did not show this flavor. Metal burrs are much easier to crank than porcelain burrs. Are they really? I don't really want to know. You know me, I don't want to do those things. Next time, hook into the corner. Ooh, that's true. I think that would, I could use the collar and, adjust, to knock it onto that. I think we could grab it and heat. Good idea. I like that. All right, so just waiting for this to boil. And then we'll be able to continue on. I've been using this particular setup. This is the MSR stove with a butane canister, which is actually so much easier than my old stove, which was, one of those white gas. I still have it, the MSR Firefly. And then you had to basically put the gas in the cylinder, pump the cylinder full of pressure, and then open the valve and let the gas flood the gas chamber, the ignition chamber, and then you light it, you ignite the thing, and then you turn it on, and then it eventually heats up enough so that it becomes like this. But this is so much easier. And the butane canister lasts surprisingly for quite a while. Like, I'm surprised at how long it's been lasting. This is the noisiest episode in over. I know, it'll get quieter soon. Once we have our water boiled, we will have more silence. The silence will fall. Speaking of which, have you guys been watching Doctor Who? I have not seen the new Doctor Who. I've been curious, but I keep forgetting to watch it, so I need to go back and check it out. I've been following other shows lately. I was watching this old TV show that came out in 2018 called Pine Gap, about the Pine Gap listening station that the CIA and the Australian government have together outside of Alice Springs, Australia, in the Northern Territory. Not bad show. Okay, so now we're seeing that it's boiling. Turn that off. And was it 3:16? 38. Pine Gap was an excellent show, but a bit slow. It was a little bit slow. I did enjoy it. I don't think they're going to make a second season, which is a little bit disappointing. All right, we're going to do a little bit. Now it's 30 seconds. 38:30. So I'm going to pour a little bit and let that bloom. All right, there it is. It's blooming. Let that bloom for about 30 seconds, and then we're going to fill it up. All right, let's go here. Okay, put that down there. Let's get this stuff out of the way. Okay, we're going to put the lid on to preserve the heat. And we're just going to wait for about 3.5 minutes. It's about another 2 minutes. Now, we've really blown through this. Now, I need to get our notes going. I think. Have you guys had it watching the Netflix series Black Spot? I have not seen it myself. I'm going to say, for the first think it's very good. The first third, and gosh, now we're almost through the second third, but the first third for flavor, I think, very good plus. Like, I'm going to say 8.75. I don't feel that it's quite excellent. Like, even though I'm really enjoying it, I don't feel that it's quite excellent for either the flavor or the body, so I'm not going to go that far. But 8.75, I think, is really, really appropriate. Fragrance cold draw, I think the that manure. I know, George, you said that wasn't necessarily a bad thing in your book, but I thought that the manure smell was kind of on the more offensive style of manure. So I think probably 8 for that. But right now, man, I've just been pounding through this. Like, we're almost to the end of the second third, and it's only been it's been less than 45 minutes on the show, so that could be a problem. Let's readjust this. All right. So we've got the fire going on. The fire is going well. Look at that. All right. Finally, some success with this fire thing. We're just waiting. Almost time. Almost time for us to brew, or to finish the brew. Now, I brought the out-of-office coffee roasters thermal mug. That should hold 12 ounces. Whew. All right, we're outside. Got the fire going on here. We got coffee's almost ready. Oh, there we go, 42 minutes. We just open this, put it on top, let the valve open and drain out. Give it about 30 seconds for it to drain through. And hopefully we should have our coffee ready to go. Of course, it's going to be pretty darn hot at the moment. All right, we're getting close to burning the band. So I'm going to take the band off, if I can. There we go. Oh, the band is not coming off with any friendliness. So into the fire it goes. I think the speed at which I've been smoking this is an indication of how much I've been enjoying it. Tonight's format is backwards. Cigar first, coffee second. I know. I did it because I figured with a Toro size, it might last a long time. Like some cigars have, like last week's cigar lasted a long time. And I was like, okay, let me start early so we can use the entire time for the cigar. But this has been so very enjoyable for me. I've been smoking on it pretty hard. I think I should slow down with it. All right, let's see here. You think we've got it all brewed up? Good. There it is. We're going to let that cool for a moment because it's going to be quite hot. If you notice in the back, my little hurricane lamp, the candle looks a bit like the leaning candle of Pisa, because it was pretty hot this week, I guess, and inside there it gets pretty hot, and well, it just kind of melted down, and I was like, darn it. I didn't think it would happen. So, I know what Tony's smoking. What else are you guys smoking out there? I'm interested to know. We haven't had the time to do the formalities we normally do. So, what do you guys got going on? Let me know what's going on. Oops. Yeah, the Pine Gap was pretty good. I basically watched that in a few days when I was like having meals, just kind of tossed it on the Netflix and watched it. It was a nice little break from the SWAT TV series I normally watch. Like, for the last several months, I've been just watching through the SWAT. I started with season 1 because I never saw season 1. and just have been working my way through all the seasons. And basically, I'm just playing it when I'm in the kitchen, and I'm not really paying attention to the storyline because I've seen almost everything. So it's like, well, I've seen like season 3, 4, 5, and 6, or maybe season 2 to 6, and when you've already seen the shows, then you don't have to pay so close attention. And that's was the difference. Like with Pine Gap, since I'm watching it the first time, I got to watch it. But with SWAT, I can just kind of like do whatever and not have to worry so much about it. All right, let's slow down on this cigar. Let's have a taste of our coffee. Oh, it's pretty darn hot. Actually, it's hot enough that I'm afraid. Actually, shoot, that's really blazing. Maybe it was a mistake to put it into a thermal cup. So here's something that I discovered a few months ago as we were doing the other live streams, is that we did a test where roasted the coffee in the big roaster, drank it right away. As soon as it came out, we brewed up some, tasted it, and then for the next week, we tasted the coffee every day, like we would normally do in a coffee quality control situation. So typical quality control standards, operating procedures in coffee is that you roast, let's say today, and tomorrow you'll cup the coffee and see how it tastes, just to make sure that everything is in line. But I learned that the coffee straight out of the roaster versus the coffee the next day, the coffee straight out of the roaster is superior to the one the next day. And I was like, man, maybe we should be like, maybe that we should be changing the way we do things. Maybe do the QC right away. And then we won't have because one of the problems with coffee roasting is that a byproduct of the roasting process is that the coffee begins to exude CO2 gas. So probably about 4 hours or so, there's probably a 4-hour window where you can be fine, or maybe longer, I don't know. I never did the testing on it yet. But by the next day, there's CO2 production that occludes the flavors of the coffee, and it's not as good. So, that's why we're kind of doing it this way, roasting it and then brewing it. So, like on tomorrow's live stream, I've got a coffee cupping of coffees that I received last week. So last week I met up with a guy named Efren Castellanos, and he's a coffee grower down in Colombia, and he lives up here, but he represents a bunch of farms now. And he was like, let's do a cup. I said, let's do a cupping. He came up to the shop, we did a cupping, and he'd roasted the stuff just that day or the day before, and I was like, so I kept some of the samples from last week, the roasted samples, and I told him I want to recup it this week after it's had time for the CO2 to degas out of the coffee. So tomorrow morning on the show, we're going to do that. I'm going to share that on the live stream. And then the coffees I've been roasting for the last 2 days here, we're going to cup those on the live stream next Friday. Now that we've slowed down, it's still pretty good, but I don't know. I don't feel that it's as great. The burn has kind of become a little bit strange. Right? I feel like I want to hit it to touch it up. Maybe we will do that. So we'll turn down the lightsaber so that it's not so forceful. This is more the setting that you use for the Padawan learners. In Star Wars, they never talked about are there Padawans in the Sith side of things. Don't touch it up because you'll burn the nub. I think it's all right. We'll see. Too late. I got to come down your way, George, next weekend on the 8th, going down to a club meeting somewhere in Virginia. I don't know where I'm going in Virginia. Maybe it's Falls Church. Maybe it's somewhere else around there. I got to look up the actual location. but I have joined the Northern Virginia Bonsai Club. I went down to the Arboretum last weekend. Last weekend or the weekend before? Maybe the weekend before. And I really wanted to go the weekend before that because on the May 9th or May 8th, whatever that weekend was, Mother's Day weekend. Yeah, absolutely. Meet up. That'd be great. That'd be great. And I was, but of course, Mother's Day weekend. I can't really go anywhere Mother's Day weekend. That was unfortunate. But that was National Bonsai Weekend or Day, and they had this big bonsai. Oh, really? Your mother was a bonsai gardener? Wow, that's amazing. And so I wanted to go then because they had this big event happening at the Bonsai and Pension Museum at the Arboretum. But I wasn't able to go, so I went the next weekend because I had to be in D.C. for a graduation party. And man, beautiful stuff, beautiful stuff. So I've been following these guys for a couple months, but wanted to go down to their meeting, so I'm going to go down to their meeting. I started doing bonsai, and I say started, but I haven't practiced in 30 years. Oh wow, multiple gardens, that's amazing. Like the stuff they have at the museum was just amazing. Had I been able to continue, I would have it equally amazing because some of the trees that are on display there were started at the same time I started, which was like 1988, 1989. When I was living in Honolulu, I had this interest in it, and there at the in Honolulu they have a bonsai club, and so I went to their meetings and I learned from these local bonsai experts, and I even cultivated my own tree, and it was doing well, but I think it got stolen, because back then I had a Carmagia convertible. And so the tree would travel with me to school and around town because I would just leave it in the car and then, open up the top, and then there's a tree getting its sunlight, and then close it up and it'd be fine until it wasn't. And then when I moved back here in 96, I planned, I'm going to do it again. I brought all my tools. I used to attend our indoor garden. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And so I still have a bunch of tools. So, and then it turns out that the guest speaker for this weekend was not, I guess, or this coming month's meeting had to cancel. So they're just like, on their website, they're like, just bring whatever tree you're working on. So I was like, I got a tree I bought recently that I wanted to train. So I need to like brush up and like get back into it. Maybe start traveling around with my trees again in the truck. Yeah, it's pretty wild, their stuff. I've been working on my coffee trees here. I've got a couple geisha trees. I think one is geisha, one is Azteca Oro. And these are seeds that I was able to get during my travels. And I planted a whole bunch of them a few years back, quite a few years ago. And these two are the only ones that survived over the years. I'm a terrible gardener. And yeah, I just repotted them. They're in these small pots, which was just too small for them. I needed to repot them, so I bought these big pots at Sam's Club, and then I ordered on Amazon some of those trolleys, the big trolleys, so that they could be rolled around because these pots are huge now, and like they're gonna be. It was probably a bad idea. What I should have done is trained those to be bonsai when I first got them as they were growing, but sometimes you're just not that smart. So the cigar's coming along. I think we're getting close to being into the last third. And you can see it's a little bit of cracking here, but it hasn't affected the draw, which is a good thing. And our fire is going. I need to adjust our fire because some of the logs are falling down. Let me do that. This is my $9 Temu thing. Man, it's burning pretty well tonight. Burning pretty well. I'm pretty pleased. Not bad. Not bad. Not a bad burn. Good God, 45 minutes on the phone with Xfinity about a non-working TV, bourbon poured, and my, garnet. I have to catch these things. 45 minutes on the phone with Xfinity about a non-working TV, bourbon poured. Oh my gosh, man, 45 minutes. Sorry to hear that. And every time I talk to the Xfinity guy, he's always like, we have an app. I was like, I know, dude, I know. Evidently, you're supposed to be able to do a lot of stuff from the app. One problem with this YouTube thing is that oh, that's a nice. Yeah, thanks. Matt gave me this chimenea. I was telling him the other month, I was like, hey man, I said to him, what do you think about the solo stove? Because Bud has a solo stove, and I'm like, maybe I should get one of those. They're like $500. He said, well, if you want, I got an extra chimenea you can have. And I was like, free chimenea? All right, thanks, man. I appreciate that. So that was a good score. Like, it's not the whole smokeless thing, but man, I'm pleased. You know what? It's interesting. It's now what? Almost 9 o'clock. We can still see daylight here. Like just a couple weeks ago when we were out here, like it was pitch black by this point, and the lighting was really difficult to work with. So we're really starting to see that the summer solstice is almost upon us. I wasn't going to drink tonight, thanks. I hear you, man. I hear you, George. I hear you. So you guys are almost done, is that right? My niece, her school just finished. She goes to Friends here in Baltimore. And evidently while we were there was an alert that came out that evidently Gilman had some kind of bomb scare, and Bryn Mawr had like a shooter. Somebody called in a shooter and a bomb scare at those schools. So they were on lockdown. Luckily, nobody called a friend. Nobody wants to mess with Friends. Friends are just too nice. They're just too nice. Those Quakers are it's a very, nice school. June 13th, their last day. Oh, nice, nice. Like, I went to a place called Loyola, which is a very, conservative prep school. So you had to, wear dress codes. There's certain standards of operation, right? And every time I go to these events at my niece's school, my niece and nephew go there, I am just always maybe the best way to describe it is a little bit uncomfortable in that it just doesn't feel normal to me, right? When I say that, I mean normal being the prep school world. Everybody's homogenous and everybody's dressed the same way and there's a uniform or a school dress code. I'm at the graduation ceremony and everybody's kind of casual. The students are casual. Everybody's the teachers are casual. One of the teachers is wearing sneakers. I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, huh. And then every time I go there and go to their events, it's the diversity of the student body is really what surprises me. I'm just my niece last Thursday when we did the last live stream, I was there. She had her choir concert, right? And I'm counting the kids on the stage. At least 40 to 45% of the students are of color. 613 is late. As a kid, I would have been boycotting that last weekend. Yeah, I don't think they give the kids that much leeway today. But I was like, oh man. So every time I go there, it's it's such a different world now, at least at this school, than the world that I grew up in. Or came up in. So I just always think that's so interesting to go there and be like, huh. Everybody's just wearing whatever they want to wear. I'm like, you can wear whatever you want to wear here? Is this madness? It's a brave new world. My school was a lot more like Georgetown Prep than Friends. I don't know if in DC, George, maybe you might know, is Friends Sidwell like Friends Baltimore? In public school, we have to get the magical 180 days for students. Oh man, 180 days. But doesn't the 180 days also apply to private schools as well? Because now they're finishing this week. I think my niece, they started the school year before Labor Day, which I think is an abomination. Like I'm when I think about my elementary school years, we did go into June, like not that far into June, but like at least the first week of June, and we didn't start till Labor Day. Maybe the number of days was lower back then. Ooh. I'm going to say we definitely have gone through our second third. And I'm going to give it the same score, 8.75. But I gotta say, in this, as much as it's kind of foreign to me, this whole school world that they're in, I think it's a better world. Like we talk about, Gen X likes to talk about G1, 180 days or not, I'm not sitting. I think we talk about we as Gen Xers like to talk about how, you always see the memes, right? Like how tough we were and all that. But you know what? We're tough, yeah, whatever. But was it worth it? I don't know. Anyway, let's sit back. Ooh, the heat is good. The heat is good on the fire tonight. The heat is good. And I'm a little bit off balance. But then again, back in my day, we could get away with murder. Yeah, we did have a lot more freedoms. Like, I hear stories from people like kids getting arrested for drinking. It's like, oh man, I don't remember. Like in the 80s, if you were caught with alcohol, you really had to do something really, really bad in order to get arrested. Yeah, they might. I never happened to me because I never got caught drinking. I wasn't really a big drinker. But you'd hear about them guys get caught drinking, and then, cops tell them to pour it out, let them go, and it's like, oh, I think that's, in some respects, I think that was the better way. I think now everybody's worried about arresting everybody. We gotta arrest those kids, teach them a lesson. And that's not the lesson to teach them. Giving them a criminal record is not a record. I mean, if they're doing something really bad, yes, maybe. Speaking of arresting and criminal records, I just saw that Donald Trump got convicted of the 34 counts of whatever fraud he's committed. Whatever fraud, I don't even know. It's something to do with the Stormy Daniels and hiding the money or whatever it was. 34 counts. He got convicted, which I didn't really think they were going to do. I didn't think they were going to convict the guy. Of course, there's going to be appeals. Maybe they can find a technicality to overturn the conviction. But I don't know about you guys. Are these offenses, they're felony offenses, yes, but are they jailable offenses? Could they theoretically put him in jail? And do you think they will put him in jail? I can't imagine they put this guy in jail. What kind of jail can they put him in? And if he goes to jail or prison, then does he go to prison with Secret Service? How does that work? And it's New York State, right? So it's a state felony. It's not a federal, is it? Or is it a federal charge? He can face up to 4 years. Oh, 4 years. Wow. So then he could run again in 2028. Can he run a campaign from the jail? Well, I guess if cartel guys can run the cartels from the jail, Trump can certainly run a campaign from the jail. So so that's one thing I hadn't thought about. Is it state? It's a state charge, so he would go to Rikers or something similar to that. Or would he go to federal prison? Like, it is a felony, so does that mean that it goes to federal prison? When I was out in California, we went to the paintball events. The one place is out in Corona, which is actually what counts as sentencing, but no technicality is going to free him. Oh, all right. Would they sentence him to prison? Like, that just seems so far-fetched. And if they do, will the freedom fighters come and rescue him by force? Will they storm? Like, are the Proud Boys still around? Will the Proud Boys storm the prison to release their savior? And in that case, Secret Service has already been planning out how they will have agents in Rikers. So they will send in the Rikers, okay. Like, if they storm, so here's the thing, so if they storm, let's say these guys storm Rikers in an attempt to free Trump from his imprisonment, what does the Secret Service do then? He can't actually vote while he's incarcerated. But that doesn't mean he can't run, right? Like, I don't think if you have a felony conviction, you can still run for office. Sheila Dixon, Marion Barry, they've all run for office, right? No, he'll end up in Rikers. Oh, Rikers. Rikers is kind of tough. Well, he won't have a tough time at it. But so let's say they storm the building and they come after him. Who does the Secret Service fight? Do they help liberate Trump? Do they fight the guys that are invading? Like, I just wonder, because obviously Trump will want to escape. He'll be like, my people have come for me. Let's go. The Secret Service have to protect Trump, but does that mean they have to keep him incarcerated, or do they just go with him? I wonder if I'm sure they've thought about this scenario. These are the things that I sometimes may wonder about. It would make for good television. Maybe a pay-per-view movie. Maybe a miniseries. A 6-episode miniseries. Or maybe make it a full 10. 10, yeah, like a full Paramount Plus 10 episodes. Fox News or OAN could finance it and do their own streaming on their sites. The new pay-per-view Fox News. The liberation of Donald Trump. I wonder. These are things I wonder about. Oh, last week we were talking about movies. I think we were talking about movies, right? And I was trying to remember, what movie did I watch most recently in the theater? And I finally remember what it was. Civil War. That's what I saw in the theaters last. That movie with Kirsten Dunst as the war photographer in a civil war here in the United States. That was pretty good. That was a pretty good movie. Like, I think about going to see a movie recently, and I was looking at the movie theater listings at the Cinemark, and I was like, there's nothing really that I'm interested in going out, making the effort to go to the theater to go watch. I don't even remember what I saw. I mean, I don't remember what the listings were, but I was like, He can run, but he can't vote for himself. But that depends on whether or not the RNC actually puts him forward as their candidate once he's sentenced. The convention is only a week or so after the sentence. Oh. When is the sentencing? Is it like next month? Or I guess it has to be next month. It's already next month. But those people are so crazy. They're gonna. I can't see why they wouldn't nominate him. It would be the good opportunity for them to finally get out from under him, but People are too afraid, I think. I mean, politicians are too afraid of that. July 11th. Okay, July 11th. Well, there's time for an appeal, right? I'm sure they're gonna file an appeal tomorrow, if they haven't done yet. Oh, we know what we need to do. We need to taste our coffee. Ooh. Nice. You know, it's nice, but it's got this weird character to it, and I think it's because of the speed of the roast. Like, it's not a gentle roast like we normally would do with coffee, like over like 10, 11, 12 minutes maybe. This is a fast 5-6 minute roast. It's just there's a harshness to it. There's a sharpness to it that I don't really like, and I do think that's because of the roast profile. But really, this kind of thing in my world is an interesting tool to use for cupping coffees. And we would normally, for cuppings, we would actually roast it a lot lighter to expose more defects in the coffee. The darker you roast the coffee, the more you can mask any kind of defects, off flavors, because the closer you get to adding char, and once you get to adding char, that kind of covers over a lot of the sins of the coffee. Well, this is something that that's unexpected. Finally getting to the coffee. This is something that's unexpected because we're almost finished. But we're way under time here. We're way under time. So once I finish this out, we're going to calculate the score. And then I'm going to go find another short cigar so we can enjoy our evening here together for our weekly Thursday night hang. I got a bunch more cigars to try that I picked up over my last few weeks. We were at the cigar shop the other day, and the cigar shop has, like I said before, the cigar shop has the new Cro-Magnon, the Pennsylvania Broadleaf. But they don't really have any size that I really want to try. Like, they've got them in the Mode 5, which is kind of small. And they have them in the big ones, like the EMH and so on. But I don't want to. I smoked an EMH last time. I didn't want to smoke it again. So I ended up going with the Quinquagenario, which is a cigar that I'm finding that the more I smoke, the more I'm enjoying it. Now, it is a little bit harsher now. Do more of it. Any thoughts on number 2? A Neanderthal. Ooh, I don't have any Neanderthals, unfortunately. All right, so it's a little bit sharper, a little bit harsher. I'm going to dump it into the fire because we can't stop the fire. But let's go through it. So I'm going to say it loses a little bit in the last. I'm going to say 8.5. Body-wise hasn't changed, 8.75. So we're going to say 17.25. Burn and draw have been excellent, so I'm going to say 9 for that. Consistency has been, I'd say 8.5, so 17.5. And then overall, I'm still going to say it's 8.75 for overall. Now, how do I calculate this? Doing math is always a problem. 17 and 17 is 34. 35. 35 plus 17, 25 is 25. 2, 42 plus the 8, 50.25. $67.75 plus 8.75. This cannot be right. I'm saying right now it comes out to be 76.5, but I don't think that's correct. I think I'm missing something. 14, 34, 35. Oh, yeah. 52. It should be 86. 86.5. There we go. 86.5. That seems right. All right, so there it is. Let's go see what else we can find as far as the next smoke. Gonna walk. The humidor itself is actually quite messy at the moment. I'm taking you to my lair. Oh, you've already seen this. We've already done a tour of this, so it's a little bit. It's still messy inside here. But as you can see here, it is all the mess. The mess. The glory of mess is happening here. Want something that's not going to take too long to smoke. Ooh, how about something from the old school? Not that one. We're going to go to this old school La Gloria Cubana Glorias. Huh? What do you think about that? Any thoughts on that? The Glorias. This is a Glorious Maduro from August 1996. I bought it at Faders in Towson. Ooh. I think there was a bunch of like regular naturals as well as Maduros. We're going to do the Maduro. I hope that will meet your approval. Right? Is that B-Triple-MC there? Any comments? Craig's with us. Good to see you, Craig. All right, let's go into the darkness. I was born into the darkness. I gotta close the door to the house because the last time we were out here, I was smoking and the fire. When I went to bed that night, the whole basement smelled like smoke. I was like, Let's put this back on here. Let me tend to the fire first while we do a little bit of this preparation. Ooh, there we go. Not bad. All right, so we've got our La Gloria Cubana Glorias from 1996. A little bit of an age on it. Doesn't have too much of a smell. Perhaps the peak of Calle Ocho production. Ooh, that could be. Yes, definitely EPC production. Cutter. Where are you, Cutter? cut the cap. It is cut. Cold draw's a little bit tight. I'm gonna turn the light shift back out. There we go. Okay. Ooh, it's really bright now. I think that'll be a little bit, yeah, that's a little bit more pleasant. Not so harsh and garish. There's a nice heat coming from the fire. Hopefully it won't be too mild a smoke. So Craig, I know I'm playing up to you this week with this one. As far as aged cigars. 1996, so what is this? This is, I bought August of 96. So this is now 28 years. The end of the last cigar was a little bit heavier on the body. So I'm kind of worried that maybe it's going to interfere with my perception of this one. Perhaps it might have been better to go with something heavier, more brute force a cigar to help overcome that, but this will work. Ooh. George Shem says that I agree, I approve of the choice. Is this the oldest cigar smoked on the show? I do believe that it will be the oldest cigar now. And George says, Bill Fader was one of the lucky ones. Thanks to his long-standing relationship with Ernesto, back in those days, retailers were fighting over info. Oh yeah, man, they were fighting. I remember from the 1997 era, when the boom was really going heavy. I have it in the humidor still. And LGC was people were wild for LGCs. And I forgot to look at the price. We should have looked at the price. It was probably like $1 or something, maybe $2 for this. I have a bundle of the Wavels from during the 97 boom when everything was being rushed through production. A 20 count bundle. At the time, I bought for $113, which was astronomical back then. Now, if you buy 20 cigars for $113, you'd be very ecstatic. But the Wavels were very nice back then, very nice. I think it's going to take a few minutes for me to get into the flavor of it, to overcome the last cigar. Yeah, so I turned on the light because I got this big panel light out here. Actually, last week I had this all set up, the tripod that the camera's sitting on, as well as the light that's illuminating me now. I had it all set up ready to go because the plan was to go to the concert and then just drive back here and jump out and do the show from this point. But if you recall, last week was raining. Well, I was like, oh man. So all of this got rained on. It was plugged in. The light was plugged in. It wasn't turned on. It was just plugged in. And I was like, oh man. So I was pretty much like, okay, yeah, I guess that light is fried. So I brought it into the house. I just let it sit there. Oh, 25 count bundles. All right, very good, very good. And I didn't touch it for the whole week. I didn't touch it till I set up here this evening. Plugged it in, and I was like, oh, $1.25. Yeah, there we go. Tony says the LGC Wavel Maduro is one of the cigars that start. I think that was all that fed our madness back then. For me, one of my most popular cigars back then, though, was the Partagas number 10. Love the number 10. That was really one of my favorites. Love that. Double Chateau Fuente from Arturo Fuente. But for me, I really love the trumpet style torpedoes. So for me, it was all of that, what was it? The Romeo and Julieta number 6. Oh, man. That, back then, was a fabulous. But the number 10, Partagas, was very, very much a popular one for me and my friends. I kind of favored the Partagas number 110 because it was sold to Alfred Dunhill. And, you know, back then when, you know, you're like 25 and you're like, I'm going to go to Alfred Dunhill to buy my cigars. It was kind of like, you kind of felt like you were doing something. You weren't doing anything but paying more for the same cigar. But I was like, or I don't know, George, was that the 110? That was just a relabeling of the 10. There wasn't any difference, or was there a difference with the 110 versus the 10? The price of that 25 bundle, darn it, just disappears all the time. The price of the 25 bundle would buy one Padron Fuente collaboration. How is that collaboration cigar? I've been curious. The LGC, Tony says the LGC and the Partagas Robusto are what started it all. Yeah, for sure. So once we lit it, the draw has been nice. It's a tighter draw than the last cigar, but not tight. I wouldn't say it's tight. Like, I'm not really having to pull like unnecessarily hard on it. Like, I do think that the flavor of the previous cigar still is overshadowing this one. See if that helps. The coffee's a little bit more on the brighter side now that it's gotten a little bit cooler. Have any of you guys been watching the Star Trek Discovery? This is their 5th and final season. Oh, there's Steven. What's going on, Steven? Good to have you, man. Good to see you out here. Oh, by the way, so like I started. Oh, and George says, but the Dunhill cigars came in wood boxes, 10 counts, that were more aged than they were more aged. I didn't realize that. Okay. Actually, the ones that they sold at the Dunhill in Honolulu at the time, they still came in the paper wrap wood boxes. They just had the 110 Dunhill Selection Suprema stamping on it. It was like those Macanudo vintage when they first came out, the ones that came in the wood lacquered boxes or the wood boxes. Those were kind of nice. Like, I actually still have one of those boxes left. Empty box, not full. I wonder if there's any kind of, like, repository for that. Like, there's part of me that's like, I have some of these boxes that are pretty old. And I'm wondering, like, should I just burn them? Or is there somebody that's interested in them that would display them at some shop or something? Like, it seems a shame to burn up what may be cigar history. So slowly I'm starting to get some of the flavor of this cigar. I want to say there's a slight sweetness to it at the moment, but I don't know if that's really true yet. I'm going to keep drinking some more coffee to help wash the palate. There's been some tick issues here. Like, I've had 3 ticks so far this season. 1 bit. The 2 I just found crawling on me. Was able to get rid of them all. And I've just been out here like this, and I wonder, and so I have been pesticiding quite heavily this last couple weeks. Hopefully that has rectified a lot of the situation. And speaking of pests, one of the things, I was washing my car the other day, Sunday. And as I was cleaning out, that like area that's in the hood where the vents are that are below the washers, right? George says, Star Trek Disco was good when it launched, but I think it declined over the seasons. We'll come back to that. And I found a couple cicadas in there. And I remember they said that cicadas are supposed to be pretty heavy this year, but I haven't seen any cicadas here in Baltimore. Like, I think we're not getting them in Baltimore. Is that right? Like, where? There's supposed to be some in Maryland somewhere, but I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen them or haven't heard them. You know, with the discovery thought, it usually takes a while to heat up the oils in a near 30-year-old. Oh, okay. An old friend of mine, Craig, says that OnoLive has a ship named after him in Season 5, Episode 3 of Disco. Oh, really? The USS Locker is shown in dock at Starfleet HQ. He worked on the show but passed. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I'm sorry to hear that. That's a shame that he had that. Fernando says that millions of them are in Tennessee. Oh, man. That sucks. How's your drive out there, Fern? Like, I saw on your Facebook, you're like, 24 hours to Tennessee. I was like, oh, man, that is hardcore, dude. That is hardcore. I've been thinking about Tennessee because when I was in Salt Lake City a few weeks ago, last month, we went to a hot chicken place. And I've been like, man, I have enjoyed the hot chickens that I've had, but I was like, I need to go to Nashville at some point to actually see the original places. But I'm not a hot guy, so I can't take the heavy heat. Rusty says, how many cigars approximately do you have in the humidor? You know, I don't know. A few hundred probably by now. My greatest fear is that there's more cigars. And I think this is something a lot of our friends share. We have more cigars than we could probably smoke before we're dead, which is probably a problem. 31 hours, including a 2-hour nap. Wow, dude. Had to out... Oh, well, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, man, some of those tornadoes really beat the heck out of those towns. I was like, oh my gosh. Like that one where they had the car cam where that whole big warehouse, that big white warehouse got totally obliterated. I was like, oh my. That's terrible. It's one of those things you wonder, like hurricanes, like Florida, Tornado Alley. Why do people live there? Don't live there. God, man, that just seems so, like, terrible. But Craig, that's cool, man. That whole thing about your friend getting the ship named after him. It's a shame he wasn't able to see it. So he was a production crew member on the show? But back to what we're saying, like, Disco, had it been prior to the start of this season, I would have disagreed that Discovery hasn't been as good. But this season, like, I haven't been enamored with this season, season 5. Like, it kind of, for me, it feels like it's plodding along and not really doing too much. Like, I guess they're doing a lot. Like, you know, now they're fighting the Breen or whatever those people are, and they're chasing up. It's the final episode is tonight, and it's like, but I remember watching last episode, you know, but I watched them, these last, especially like this season, I've been watching it. And I get kind of bored. Like I get distracted. Like I'm like looking on the internet while I'm while I'm supposedly watching this. He was a camera operator. His now teenage daughter saw it through. Oh gosh, I saw it though. Okay, good. George says that Florida's going to have a rough hurricane season, I fear. Gulf of Mexico water temps already around 90 degrees. Whoa. I mean, like, we're getting some pretty severe weather around the world. Like, one of my friends was posting, where was it? In India, I think it was. It's 52 degrees. And I was like, oh my gosh, man, 52 degrees. That's like 100, what, 120, 125 degrees? I mean, that's craziness. Like last summer was really bad. Not so much here in the United States as far as temperature-wise, but like when I was in Asia, it was blazing. And then my cousins went to Europe. They were like, it was blazing there too. I was like, my God, man. It's crazy temperature in the world. Crazy temperatures. Okay, so I'm starting to get through to it. I think we're... All right, George, you have a great week. Nice to see you. Have a great weekend. Oh, gosh. So fragrance cold draw for this first one. I think it was pretty light in the fragrance. I'm going to say 7.5. And I'm going to say we're pretty much done, almost done with the first third. Body-wise, very mild in the body, but not bad. I'm going to say 8 for the body. Like it's a lighter bodied cigar. I'm going to say 7.5 for the flavor. But part of that is going to be my ability to perceive the flavors after that last cigar, which is probably not a fair comparison for this one. My goodness, what's going on here? Fern says, there are too many people in the world, all that, but you know, there's something to be said about that. Like, some of my customers here, because where my shop is, or the last shop was, and the new shop will be, is here in the middle of what's called Hunt Valley, Maryland, where the headquarters of McCormick Corporation is. And some of my clients, or my customers, are food chemists for McCormick. So we were talking about this one day, and they were like, you know, one of the problems that McCormick is looking at with the global, partially to do with global warming, as well as is population density, right? Like you're saying. They were telling me that, you know, over the next 50 years or so, we're going to see pretty big changes. As if population growth continues the way it's been growing, we're going to see some very big changes in that. So basically, the basic premise is that they were like, at the time, we had 7 billion people in the world, close to 8 now. But the arable land is really good for 5 billion people. So as the population grows to 10 billion, a lot of this arable land is going to have to be changed from, you know, in many respects, spices are a luxury, right? And as they have to convert more of these other lands into lands to produce protein and to sustain life, a lot of these spices and stuff will change, and those spice lands will shrink. Spikes will become more of a luxury item and much more expensive than the commodity they are today. And as the global warming is happening, we're seeing the changes in crop culture. Like, for example, in Colombia used to have two separate and distinct coffee growing seasons. There was the winter harvest, like in December, November, December, January. And then there'd be a secondary smaller harvest in June. But as the global warming has gotten warmer, in Colombia especially, it's been much more acute. Maybe because they're closer to the equator, I'm not sure why, but where there used to be two crops, a major in the winter and a smaller one in the summer, now that has changed where they pretty much have to harvest coffee. Coffee is coming to ripeness on an ongoing basis throughout the year. So that's because of the global warming. And as global warming affects us, quality coffee production has to move higher onto the mountains to maintain the right environment, temperature-wise, to grow the quality coffee. But of course, when you move up a mountain, the farther up you get to the peak, the narrower, the less land is available to you. So these are some interesting issues we're going to have. Now, the other side of it is that we're also reaching a point where perhaps there's going to be some correction, where, you know, we see places like Japan, China, where their birth rate is becoming very low. Even the United States is starting to have issues with the birth rate dropping. Now, if we're worried about overcrowding at 7 to 8 billion people, and we need to probably be closer to 5, perhaps the slowdown isn't necessarily a bad thing for the existence of the species. But for the nations themselves, it's going to give them some problems. Like as Japan ages and there's not enough babies to take over, they're going to have more issues as far as, you know, revenue, people generating income, who's taking care of this growing elderly population. And this is something that's happening even in China. They're starting to see that because, you know, China with 1 billion people, for the longest time, they put in the one-child law. But that one-child law now is starting to have a negative effect on their populace. And I saw a report just the other day where they were talking about that there's starting to be a downturn here in the United States, too, as far as procreation and more babies. As the younger generations take longer to have families, or maybe opt to not have families, that's going to have a potentially negative effect on our populace. All right, let's have a look here at our fire. I need to attend to it a little bit. Give it a little turn to this big log. Also, maybe you need to fan it a little bit. Get a little more air on it. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Not too bad. So, that's pretty much that. There it is. So, Fern, how long are you in Nashville for? I'm curious to know. Craig says that a guy just posted a walkthrough of the village in Japan that my mom's side is from on YouTube. Oh, it's a ghost town. Oh, wow, that's crazy. What town are you from? Or is your mom from there? Like, I've seen some of those videos where it's really kind of like bad. Like, just people are gone, just abandoned. My friends took a house in Sano that was not necessarily, but almost abandoned. George says, marked improvement in the fire making. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. 4 days, went to see my first grandson. Oh, nice, dude. Congratulations on that. Congratulations. That's amazing. It's kind of crazy to think that we're of an age now where we would have grandchildren, or could, in my case, could have had grandchildren. Well, who knows? I might have some somewhere. I mean, especially when we're all running around when we were young. Yeah, I'm not too good with the hot stuff. Like, we're talking about Nashville chicken. Like, I remember this one time, one of the trips we went to in Edmonton. So Fern is one of the guys I played paintball with many years ago. And we all went up to Edmonton, Canada for the Canadian Stock Gun Championships. And one of our friends, Wes Wong, was with us. And I remember we're out to eat one night. And we're at that restaurant. I was like, what is this shrimp a la Diablo? And Wes was like, oh, you should try it. I was like, all right, I'll try it. Man, that thing was so hot. Like, I was on fire, man. I was like, oh my God, man. I never ordered I never ordered again. Because I don't know what they did, but it was super, super, super hot. Like, craziness. Crazy. I was like, I remember that. That's the one thing I remember the most. And Craig says that Mio Wakayama Prefecture, fishing village on the ocean south of Osaka. Oh, nice. So really quiet there, huh, man? Mio, not Mie, sorry. Never trust, yeah, I mean, you cannot trust, even to this day, you can never trust. That guy's he's always the jokester. You always got to be on guard with that guy. But good times. I remember one time we were out there, and we were sitting outside of I don't know if a bar, or if it was a restaurant. We're sitting outside, drinking, eating, whatever. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like looking around, it was kind of light. And I was like, man, it must be like 8:30 or something. And I looked at my watch, and it was 11:30 at night. And I was like, holy moly, I can't believe it's 11:30 at night, and there's still kind of daylight out. So those of you maybe, like, those of you who have not been to Canada, Edmonton is in the province of Alberta. And it's, relatively for us, it's quite high on the northern latitude. And I just remember we were there, and it was like 11:30, and it was still a little bit light out. I was like, wow, man, I can't believe it. That's probably as north as I've ever been. Like, I don't even remember Copenhagen being that bright at night. And I thought Copenhagen was kind of high up. Edmonton is way north for a city. Oh, okay, yeah. But I did like it there. I like going there. We went there for like 2 or 3 years on the summer, usually in July. And mostly we would fly into Calgary and then drive up. Like, I remember one time I flew into Calgary. Wes and I met up. Went to go visit his girl that lives in Calgary, and then we drove up to Edmonton. You on the highway, you pass through a town called Red Deer, and there's this like fields of canola, like canola, and canola is actually a small plant that at a certain point it sprouts and has a flower, and it's beautiful. Like, it's hundreds of acres of this yellow flower going on. And I remember Wes was like, we'd stop taking some pictures. Wes was like, we should get pictures naked. I was like, what? All right, let's do it. So there's a couple pictures of us out there. It's on my Facebook, actually. Out there, buck naked in the middle of this canola field. Very good times. Yeah, I hear you, Tony. It does say devil. I didn't even, at the time, I didn't really I hadn't really thought too much about the Spanish part of it, or the Italian part, shrimp alla diavolo, but I didn't think it'd be that. I mean, this thing was on fire. Like, and you know, when you're young, you're like, oh, I could take the heat. Oh man, that was it was like way out there. So, cigar's coming along well, right? Let me get out here, see if that'll focus more. No, not really. I mean, generally speaking, it's been good. I can't say it's been very good, but it's been good. Steven says the new heat record last summer in Arizona, 54 days over one. Oh my gosh. You know, actually, I was thinking about Arizona today. Oh, and nothing beats the bus. Nothing beats the bus. God, man, that bus. I think I told the guys this story on one of the previous live streams, but if I'm pretty sure I did. But we did a bus trip, and Fern was one of the guys with me on the trip. Actually, when we were in California, I was trying to find out. I was trying to remember who was with us because I wanted to interview them for a video about the bus trip because we were taken down by the DEA. And turns out our friend Aaron's daughter, Tanya, that was like, she works in law enforcement now. She's like, my boss was one of the cops that brought you down. And I was like, what? It's crazy. And she was like, that raid was led by DEA. So finally, 30-some years later, we learned that it was a DEA operation. Where was it? ATF? I don't remember, Fern. I forgot. I have it on the video. But I was like, oh, man. Craziness. But I was thinking about Phoenix. He said we should have sued. You know what? Who could we? But at the time, that's the thing. I remember we talked about. I remember we came back and Jessica was like, so one of our. I'm talking about a girl named Jessica. Jessica Sparks was at one point the editor of Action Pursuit Games magazine, a magazine dedicated to paintball. But she was also a lawyer by her real life. And I remember we talked to Jessica about this, and at least Aaron did, and he was like, they couldn't find any record of it happening, right? Like, she looked, there was no record of it happening. Those guys left us in the middle. Oh, yeah, Fern says, so, you know, yeah, I guess the cop says we could have sued, but if we couldn't even figure out who was leading the charge on us, how could we even sue them? Like, today, it'll be a little bit different story because now, you know, we can, and maybe this is a good correlation here, right? Like, back then, in 1996, there was only the television news, right? They had television news helicopters flying over us, recording video of us being arrested or being detained. That was it. But they could, that then was much easier to quash, right? Whereas now, in modern times, yeah, LA SWAT Riverside sheriffs were clearly well, yes, they were, but we couldn't. I think Jessica looked into it and she couldn't figure out who. Like, there was no record of us being pulled down in the middle of the desert by any agency, or I guess by the agency she checked with, even though it had been recorded in the news. And, you know, so if there's, even if there may be video of it, and there may be even, like, you know, an article in the LA Times, if you can't figure out the agency that's running it. I remember asking the guys, like, they were trying to interview us. They was like, well, who are you with? And the guy was like, well, I'm with those guys, pointing to some random uniformed guy off in the distance. Real, you know, Black Ops, cloak and dagger bullshit. But had this happened today, you know, all those people driving by would, you know, phone it. And then they'd post it. And they'd be like, oh, look at these guys. These suckers got arrested in the desert. So I think that's something they could easily readily quash back then, that'd be much harder to quash today. Which is kind of like, the whole TikTok thing that's happening. Like, as I've been watching more TikTok lately and seeing, like, people reporting from, like, wherever they are in the world, showing whatever they're experiencing, it's like, I can see why the government's, like, interested in banning the platform in America, because it's like, well, too much information, right? If you can't control the narrative, then it gets to be out of control. But I wish we could have sued, because, we could have used some cash for that. Like, that would have been some good cash. I was all in favor of suing. But I really thought we were going to get killed that day. I really thought we were going to be killed in the desert. Leo told me to ask for pen and paper and get names, and they got shitty with me at that point. I just wanted out of the, no doubt, man. No doubt. When they lined us up against the bus after we all came out, and before they put the handcuffs on, the zip ties on us, and they said, all right, man in red, the mechanic, the black guy, they said to him, walk forward, stop, get on your knees, hands was on his head. Man, I thought at that moment, I was like, they're gonna shoot him, they're gonna kill all of us out here in the desert. I really thought that at that moment. And like when we were on the bus and had the laser dots on us, I was actually thinking, like, trying to mentally prepare myself for how the AR-15 rounds would feel when they hit us. I mean, it was some messed up shit that day. I can see why Little Aaron and who else? Little Aaron, the other guy, like, took off and went back to LA. Didn't want to continue on the trip. But I gotta say, even that, now that we survived it, kind of makes for an interesting story. Especially the part about Leo's friend. What was his name? Leo's friend, the gunnery sergeant that went all crazy. And Esparza, they took his. And he had that little piece of pot. Can you imagine these guys? They're DEA. They're all like, we're gonna have a big drug bust. Oh yeah, Frankie, that's right. We're gonna have this big drug bust, and they got this little bag of pot. They're like, okay, we just took down this bus and did all this stuff, and there's only nothing on here except for this bag of pot. But I gotta say, Leo, he played it well, man. He played it well. Whatever he was dealing on that secondary bus that they said that left at the same time, he got away with it. So this cigar is just good. Not very good, just good. But anyway, like I was saying, Stephen, I was thinking about Phoenix. I was watching the documentary with the what's his name? The guy from Pizzeria Bianco. Westminster, Westminster and getting, that time. Oh yeah, that time. That was mild. That was mild compared to this one. Like, that was nothing. Like, those guys, they didn't even have their gun drawn on us. But that was an interesting time. Actually, so what Tony's talking about, we were out one day years ago shooting. This guy that we knew had worked on a farm out in Westminster. So he's like, yeah, we can go shooting on the farm. So we're out to this farm, way out on Route 140, and we're like maybe a mile off of 140 into the farm. And there's some woods, and in the woods they had, like, I don't know, I think they had some like washing machines set up. So we went and had some guns, and one of the guys had an AR-15. And I don't have an AR-15. I didn't have one. I was like, oh, let me try. He's like, you want to try it? I was like, yeah, man, let me try it. We've been out there for quite a while. So I put the headphones on, lock and loaded, pull that AR-15. It's like a 30-round mag. And I'm just tearing this laundry machine apart, washing machine apart. As fast as I can pull the trigger. And then suddenly click. Empty. And really, really mute in my ears, I can hear somebody yelling at me. What are they saying? I'm trying to say, did he put the weapon down or drop your weapon? And he goes, drop your weapon. And I was like, what? And I'm like, who the hell is that? And I turn, and here's this state trooper standing like, I don't know, 20 feet away or so. And he doesn't have his gun drawn. I think he actually had the Beretta. At the time they were in Beretta 92s. He had it snapped off, so it was unlocked from his holster, but it wasn't out. And he was like, I looked, he's like, drop your weapon. And I was like, what the hell? Who's this dude? And all I could think was like, I briefly thought for a moment that, is this guy crazy? Like, did he just walk up here from, he walked, evidently he had parked his vehicle down the road and walked his way up there. And I was like, dude, we have been unleashing on these, like, everybody has been unleashing on these washing machines for the last like half an hour, 45 minutes. So the entire time you're walking up here, all you hear is like crazy gunfire, and you're not gonna have your gun. He didn't have his gun drawn, but I was like, I just remember looking and I was like, man, this guy, he's crazy. Like, if I had a loaded mag, all I had to do was turn and unload. I didn't do that, of course. That's why I'm still here. But yeah. I know there's some commentary happening here. Let me just roll back a little bit. Yeah, so Westminster, that was a good time. Didn't get arrested, though, luckily. And Fern says that I remember when you both... I did not do that. Not in California. One gun was drawn. Partner had it on the... Oh, I only saw the one guy then. But I was like, these guys were like nuts. Fun with guns. Fern, that was an airsoft gun in California. Oh. All right, so coming along. Almost there. Oh, back to Phoenix. So I'm watching this thing about the owner of Pizzeria Bianco, one of those chef's tables videos, and I'm thinking, you know what, man? I still need to get out to Phoenix and check out. So Stephen, here's my question to you, man. Like, is there a time of year when people don't go to like Phoenix? Like, is there a slow season? Because I was thinking, oh man, July is probably a great time to go because it's blazingly hot. Nobody wants to go there. But I was looking at the airfares for like the middle of July. I was like, oh, it's kind of expensive. I did not say those things. Those are lies spread by my competitors. But Maryland is a Class 3 state. Yeah, the MP5 airsoft I got from a guy that was flying for Hawaiian Airlines when I was living in Honolulu, and he was like, and I was like, we were in the same class together at school, and I was like, hey man, can you get me an MP5 airsoft gun? Because they really weren't available in America back then. And he's like, yeah man, I go there like every week. And I was like, oh dude, how much is it? It's like $400. So he went there one week, looked it up, found the place, got the price. He was like, $400. I was like, all right. Gave him $400 the next week, went back, brought it back. I was like, thanks, dude. Thanks. And, you know, it's really quite, like these airsoft guns, they're really quite accurate. Like if you buy the nicer ones, they're really quite accurate to the real thing as far as dimension and maybe the weight-ish. Whew. Good times, good times. But anyway, so I was thinking, like, is there a time, Stephen, where you can, that Phoenix is cheaper to fly to? Another thing I was thinking about recently, this past week, I was like, I've always heard about corn in Iowa. I don't know if I said this last week, but I remember one of my friends, somebody was telling me about this type of corn that we don't really have here in Maryland, a varietal called peaches and cream. They're like, this is the sweetest corn ever. Best corn. And I've been thinking about it for the last few years. I'm like, huh. And I was thinking, man, you know what? It's almost summertime. So it's got to be corn season in Iowa at the summer. So I was looking online, what's the peak season for sweet corn in Iowa? And they're like, July. And I was like, so I'm thinking that maybe if there's a way to work it, fly out to Iowa, maybe to Cedar Rapids. Oh, is that right? Cedar Rapids? Is that where I was looking at? No, what's the big town? Des Moines? Des Moines. I was looking at Des Moines. Airfare, 300 something. But the car was expensive. Or was it? So I looked at two different options. Flying out to Des Moines, which was more expensive by airfare, cheaper for the car, or flying to Chicago. It's way cheaper for the airfare, and then renting a car and driving the 5 hours. But the car was double the price. I don't know. I have to look at some other options. But I would be interested to try this like special corn. I don't know if you guys have tried if you guys have had the peaches and cream, I'd like to know, is it worth it? Evidently, like here, I don't know what variety of corn we have here. Like when we were younger, there's a varietal called Silver Queen that was really popular, really famous. But like, I don't think Silver Queen really is cultivated widely anymore, because now they have newer varieties of corn that are much sweeter, much more sugar content. Like, you don't even have to cook it. Like, you could eat it raw and it's got enough sugar content. But I don't know that much about corn. Like, I just like to enjoy it, right? Get the corn nice and hot, whether it's steamed or boiled or like on the grill. And I like it, especially when you're having crabs here, like, bathe it in butter. I like to bathe it in butter. And then, like, if I'm eating crabs, like, I have the Old Bay, the seasoning on my fingers, and I like to rub that over the corn and the butter so that it's all mixed in. Ooh, like that. But I'm open to exploring how Iowa people eat their corn. I imagine they're like the experts in corn. Just don't want to go there during tornado season, so now would be bad. But then again, now there's no corn, or maybe it's too early. Maybe get to meet a corn queen or something at the pageant, Yeah, I'm gonna say this cigar, good, not great. Fern says mayonnaise, chili powder, and cotija cheese. Oh yeah, that's very good. I remember one of my first trip to Mexico City. My then girlfriend took me to a place in the neighborhood where Frida Kahlo had her house in the south, close to Xochimilco. We went to the plaza there, and we got the corn. And it's so interesting. Like, you go to Mexico, And the corn is so different. It's so different. It's not as sweet. It's not as, like our corn, like the corn rows are very cultivated. Like those are all kinds of like big kernels, small kernels, all kind of funky looking kernels. But such a nice flavor, man. Such a nice flavor. And then I remember on that same trip, before I went, one of my friends was a chef. I was like, he was very knowledgeable about Mexican food as well. And he was like, I was like, I'd only had tortillas, right? And actually one of the great times of tortillas and tacos for me was that time you and I, Fern, with Aaron, we went down to Tijuana and had those 50-cent tacos on the street. Man, those were so delicious. I was like, that was like a whole new like world for me. I was like, oh my gosh. But when I was in Mexico City, I remember I asked my friend, I said, is there a difference between the tortillas made from the maseca, the corn flour, versus like actual corn, fresh corn masa? And he was like, oh yeah, dude. And so I was at my hotel, and I went downstairs, and I was like, I need to get something to eat. So I said to the bell guy, I said, hey man, where can I get something to eat? And he was like, well, there's a Popeyes down the street. I was like, dude, I did not fly all the way to Mexico City to eat at Popeyes. I said, what's good for like Mexican food? He said, well, there's another restaurant here. I said, do a lot of tourists go there? Like, oh yeah, yeah. I said, I don't want to go to a tourist place. I said, where do you go to eat, man? I said, where do you eat? He said, oh, where do I eat? I was like, yeah. He's like, go out here, turn left, go to the next corner. At the corner, there's a woman, and she's selling tacos out of buckets. I was like, that's where I'm going. So I went there, and she made this taco. It was the chicharron verde, the ones where they have the chicharron and they cook it in the green salsa until it's nice and soft and chewy and that on a corn tortilla. And that corn, man, I remember that corn flavor was so vibrant. Like it was so amazingly corn vibrant. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what they're talking about. I was like, this is crazy good. So I love that. I love that. Find a corn festival and meet the corn. I would like that. And no GMOs. Yeah, no GMOs there. Yeah, I haven't been back to Mexico. I haven't been down to Mexico City since like 2019. So 5 years. I need to go back. They have great taco places there. One of my favorite is for the Al Pastor taco. There's a place on Universidad. It's a place called El Vilcito. I've been going there since like 2007. It's fabulous. Like it's the best tacos Al Pastor I've had anywhere. And it's a really strange place because like during the day, it's a big automotive like repair center, garage. And then at 7 p.m. every day, they open these big accordion doors and they reveal the taco stand that's in front of this place. And it's open from 7 p.m. till 4 a.m. So you go there like at 11, 12 at night, and it's packed. People are there. They got the big trompos with the flames shooting out of the big piles of like pork. You're like, oh my God, so delicious. And then they have like big bowls of like, they have salsa verde, salsa rojo. They have like big like jugos of the horchata, and the horchata is so like beautifully balanced of sweet corn and just a slight touch of the canela, and it's so cold. Like it's so cold. You're just like, oh, God, the tacos, and then the cold, man, amazing. The aguas frescas, yeah, man, beautiful stuff. My favorite agua fresca, though, is, besides the horchata, is the watermelon. Actually, I've been thinking about horchata this last couple of days. I'm thinking, like, I need to make some. Okay. I've got a whole bag of, like, the canilla rice. I'm like, oh, I need to go, like, use that canilla rice. And I also have the canela. So I'm just like, oh, I can just make. Because we used to, at the other shop, we would make horchata during the summers for people to buy. And we'd also make other aguas, like the watermelon. I was, the one that I'm not a big fan of, because I think it's very bright, very acidic, is the hibiscus, the Jamaica. I'm just not a big fan of that. Like, I'll drink it, but it wouldn't be my go-to. Cucumber lime, yeah, man, that's also delicious. Gosh. One of the things about Baltimore is that there's a big Latino community here, but the Latino community is more El Salvadorian or Salvadorian than it is of other, like the Salvadorans have the biggest population here in Baltimore, which means we've got wonderful places for pupusas, but as far as getting like really great Mexican, like tacos and stuff, there's only a few places to go to that are really, really good because that are run by Mexican guys. And it's interesting because here in Baltimore, we, even though it is very small, you know, since there's the places that are run by these guys, they're all different. Like one of the families that runs this one, my favorite place, is from Mexico City, so very centro style of antojitos and stuff like that. A buddy of mine, he's from Sinaloa, so at his restaurants, it's very Sinaloense style, right? And then another friend of mine, he's got a taco joint, and he's from Puebla, so very poblano in the approach of. So it's really interesting to see this. That even though it's smaller, we do have a nice variety, right? Like I went to a taco joint, a taco stand, not a taco truck, really, a taco trailer. I was looking up on Google. I was in Columbia, Maryland, at a Sunoco station, of all places, of course. There it is, this one place. And this guy's like, you know, making tacos, and I was like, hey man, how much are the tacos? 12 for 4. I was like, 4 for 12, 4 for 12. $12, like that, $12, a lot of money. But I was like, where do you get this whole variety? So I said, hey, can you give me a variety? So he gave me one asada, he gave me one camaron, one carnita, and then one the sausage, the ground sausage. Nice, very nice. A little bit better now, but still just good. We'll have to do more of the older cigars in future episodes. All right, I guess we're gonna wrap this up here. I don't think it'd be fair to really truly rate this cigar. I think it's good. I'm not going to give it a score today because, you know, because my palate was affected by the last cigar. I'm not giving it its full potential, right? I'm not giving it my full palate. So I don't think it's fair to rate a cigar with that in mind. But that was kind of enjoyable. And we got to hang together. That's always good. All right, so that's pretty much it for today. We're going to head out. I know it's already, oh my gosh, it's already 140 minutes. Lengua and labios tacos are labios. Labios. You know, I'm not familiar with that word. What is the lengua and what's the labios? Labios. Oh, cow lips. Oh, I don't think I've ever had that. I will look for that next time. All right, so, yeah, Tony, good night to you. Fern, have a safe trip back home. I guess you're going to drive back soon since it said 4 days. Craig, thanks for watching. Brian, Steven, everybody out there. Mom, good to see you. Back again next week at 8 p.m. for the Thursday Night Hang. We'll have more cigars, more chat, and more of something. All right, so you guys have a great one. Oh, you're home already. Okay, good. All right, well, thanks very much for tuning in. See you guys next time. Hope you have a great week, and See you then. Oh, oh, oh. Come out when it's cool outside with my brother as we can go blasting. All right, that sounds like a good idea. All right, man. Have a great one, guys. See you next time.